Well, recording is in progress. What is going on, everyone? I'm Courtney Rollins with Aqua Team Properties here as the host and facilitator right now of the Capacity to Be meetup. Every third Thursday, we come in and we bring some awesome folks from all over the nation, primarily in the Baltimore and the Southeast area, in some field of real estate investing that can chat with us and talk to us and share their experience through the real estate game. Today, I have a super awesome person who I've had the pleasure of getting to know maybe over the last year or two or so.
Few years. Yeah.
2 years,
COVID,
yeah.
COVID makes it seem like it's not been that long, but it's
Yeah,
been
that
a
lost
while.
year. But
It's probably been like 3 years, probably.
right, it may have been, but this person has been like just, I mean, she's so multi-talented, super intelligent when it comes to just in the real estate game and outside the real estate game. She's a doctor, she's an investor, she's a coach. I'm gonna let her tell more about herself, but she's definitely excellent when you're thinking about creative financing, when you're thinking about ways to pull out different tools in your tool belt that you may not necessarily, most folks may be thinking about when they're approaching real estate investing. But so happy to have you, Dr. Cooper, Daa'iyah Cooper. How you doing?
I'm blessed. Thank you for having me. And thank you for having me on this platform, Courtney. I really appreciate it. I love talking about real estate. So there's never any convincing to get me to talk about my passion. But yeah, like you said, I'm a doctor. I'm a medical doctor. I'm a physician, so I'm an ER doctor, and I'm here in Baltimore. I now own all my properties are now in Baltimore. When we first met, I had some out of state, like in North Carolina as well, but everything is here now in Baltimore. But in addition to, I actively still see patients. But in addition to that, I started investing in real estate with intention back in like 2018. I took Charm City Buyers course. But even before then, in 2015 is when I became a landlord for the first time.
Oh, wow.
Since that time, especially when I started really getting intentional about like focusing in on real estate as like my particular niche in investing. So I have like some stocks and crypto and stuff like that too, but I really understand real estate the best. But when I became really intentional, I just really fell in love with creative financing. So I love talking about that. I think that's how we connected too.
Right.
Yeah, I like to, create community. I really have a passion for teaching Black women how to get into real estate investing. So I especially like talking to young Black professionals because I feel like Black professionals fall into the trap of having those golden handcuffs. So we start getting comfortable. We won't have to get it out the mud so much anymore compared to when before we became professionals, right? So I think we fall into the trap a lot. I feel like we have to put a lot of money into deals to get a deal. And so I love teaching people how to get creative. So that's kind of one of the ways I started my community, Sista Docs and REI. Because I just wanted to, have a safe place for Black women docs to say, hey, there's other ways you can do this. You don't have to do those 25% down investment loans. And there's other ways that you can get this done. And we just get together and chat and share information about our deals. And some people invest together, so so I do a little bit of everything. And then I also do consulting under Capital Dynasty, my business.
Capital Dynasty, your business, and the group the affinity group for professional Black women.
So right now my group is it's called Sista Docs and REI. So it's Black female doctors. We have pharmacists, dentists, physicians, and it just kind of happened organically. I'm in Facebook groups where it's just like Black female doctors, because you know how you get in your little niche groups in your social media. And then I remember someone mentioned like, is there like a separate aside group from this where we can just talk about real estate? And I had already been thinking about starting my own. So it was like perfect. Like that was like my sign to just go ahead and start it. Wow. And I did that in September of 2020. And we've been going strong ever since. It's about 485 members now.
485 members. John Brown. So there's obviously a
thirst for
it. Some of your folks coming in now, eh?
Hey, yeah. That's some of my next gen fam.
If you're all over on IG Live, you can jump on the meetup, Capacity to Be meetup, and come in and join us for the Zoom call. We'll have opportunity for people to network, get to know each other, and you can directly ask Dr. Daa'iyah, Dr. Cooper questions right here, or put it in the chat, and we'll make sure that we definitely get to them. You said a lot right there that was so cool. I don't know which direction to actually go in,
Yeah,
but
sorry,
I
I do
do.
a lot. I do the most.
No, yeah, exactly. That's great though.
Yeah, so
That's
I
awesome.
actually don't have any coaching. That's something I will have worked out in the future, but I just do
Wow.
consulting, strategy calls, discovery. I do, discovery calls with people so they can book it on my site.
Every
But I
call.
don't work with everybody. So once we do discovery call, if they're ready, then we'll proceed with strategy. So I actually had a call today with a new client. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, I've helped people get into their first property or scale up from like their first property to the next property. Or, I referred one of my clients to you,
Right.
if they need to sell the property. So yeah.
Well, that says a lot about you because that particular person, Danielle, she was referring to you as a coach. So it says a lot about like the way you give to other folks, and also she has so much great things to say about everyone I come across has great things to say about you. I'm seeing you all over the place. We had the CIAAs here
Yeah, that
recently.
was
You were
fun.
part of a Financial Summit Institute giving
Yeah, I
again.
just have to give all credit to Vinroy
Ben
July.
Roy, this
He,
is what's
he
up,
put
Tar
that
Heel.
he put that together. So I was like, I
Look
don't
at
know how I ended up on this panel with all these amazing people, but thank you.
Well, he deserves to be up there. And Vinroy July he needs to be the next mayor of Baltimore. He could be it.
Yeah.
I'd run on hey, if you need somebody to run, I will definitely be part of your campaign. But Vinroy is actually
Yeah,
one of the folks that was a part of my journey in getting to real estate investing. He's just a champion of Baltimore too. He's been champion in Baltimore for years. So shout out
absolutely.
to
I have to
Vinroy
give credit
July.
where credit is due. So that was all him inviting me to that panel. So I appreciate that.
Well, he definitely wouldn't have done that without seeing the value that you're bringing. So a couple of places I wanted to go, but I would just you did tell people like how you got into real estate and why you felt comfortable with real estate. I'd love to talk more about that, but I also really appreciate what you said about the golden handcuffs and about how,
Yeah.
especially a lot of us, as
Yeah.
we're getting more mobile and getting more
Yeah.
access to funding, how comfort can actually, seep in. And I was just listening to, I listened to a lot of Bob Proctor and folks like that, and talk about how dissatisfaction or discomfort is a creative state, and how we can comfort.
Mm,
Not that you don't want to have gratitude, and not that you don't want to, feel gratitude, but being comfortable can quite often mean that you're not necessarily growing. So
stagnant.
can you talk more about like that?
Yeah,
That
I feel like people who decided to go along the path of entrepreneurship at
Mhm.
a young age, they're trained. They've trained their mind, their body, like their muscles to like their mental muscles to know that they have to be constantly out here getting it.
Right.
But people like me who went down the path of traditional, sign up to be employee at a corporation or a high income earner, we fall into the trap of, okay, focus, 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 like, and get to this end point
Mhm.
of, whether it's a professional degree or whatever, business, whatever. We fall into the trap of, okay, one, we were so focused just to get there. And then when we finally get there, now we're like, oh, we have these nice salaries.
Mhm.
And I see it as golden handcuffs because then you have this false sense of like a safety net. But
Mhm.
like I mentioned this too on the CIAA panel. It was when I moved to Baltimore and got my first big girl job here
Mhm.
um, as a physician at a teaching hospital. I realized that, when they had me filling out a timesheet, I was like, what? I've
Mhm.
been to school about 30 years straight almost since I was 5 years old, and I got to fill out a time sheet. So, I have people laugh at that, but that the honest thing is that that time I realized I'm an employee still. I'm still
Mhm.
an employee. So I am still accounting. I have to account for my time and all this. And it really hit me that I really needed to start creating some freedom for myself by, starting investing and getting into assets. So I think that's where the golden handcuffs came into play for me. Like I kind of snapped out of it then and then started becoming more intentional about investing then. And that
Yeah.
was in 2016.
2016, and you came across some very awesome, one of my favorite couples in
Yeah,
Baltimore.
yeah. I came across people like Kieran Khalil. I came across people like
Yeah.
Ben Roy. And I really decided just to, take a chance. Like they seemed very knowledgeable, Kieran Khalil, but I was in their first ever cohort. There was no such thing as Next Gen at the time that I joined. They had just started it, and I was like, "Well, sign me up. I love taking
Yeah.
chances. I love
You want to success
it."
stories right there.
And it
Charm City
was,
buyers. Yeah.
yeah, it was well worth it. Learned a lot. And then I just kind of, I'm the type of person, I'm very resourceful. So I go out and just add on top of that foundation. And then, like I said, I already had the foundation of being a landlord from before I moved to Baltimore anyway, but that was, out of state landlord. I was not actively doing things like I do now, like my actual hands and eyes on the property,
So
like I do now.
do you still have those properties in North Carolina?
So no, I just sold my home in North Carolina like
Congrats.
September. Yeah, so this fall. So now all my properties are now in Baltimore. So yeah, but yeah, just turned up the notch and started getting even more serious about it.
So walk us through, talk to us about after the North Carolina deal, because it sounds like did you become a landlord out of like, I'm moving out of my old property?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was an accidental process.
Yeah.
Literally, it was like no intention with it at all. It was just
Cool.
like, okay, I am moving away. I'm going to go do some more medical training. And it wasn't a seller's market at the time. It's not like this market. This
Tell
is
us,
a
know what's
seller's market.
up. Yeah.
But that market was not a seller's market. And it was going to be either you sell it and take a loss. And I ain't taking no losses unless I have to.
No else
I'm
unless
not
you
doing
have
that.
to.
I'm not doing that. So I was like, well, I guess I will be renting it. And that was my intro to being a landlord, and I enjoyed it. And I just was really blessed to have family down there. They're not my blood family, but they're my family who helped to manage that for me over the years. Yeah.
So what about your first intentional like transaction? Can you remember that and walk us through what that felt like?
No, my first intentional transaction was me finishing up the first ever next gen with Charm City buyers. And, their goal at that time was what you need to have a property within 6 months. And so, and my first ever deal was a subject to deal. And so it was a deal of the day in that group. So they would, if someone shared a deal with them, they would share it with us. And so I guess that's probably why I love creative financing now, because they're like, well, this is a little bit different, but I'm sure you could figure it out. So they, said this is the deal. I was like, okay, well, let me look through it, analyze the deal, run the numbers like I have been taught to do, and it just worked out. It was a tired landlord. And the property was vacant, but I think before it was vacant, had been that seller had been dealing with tenants and just was kind of over dealing with tenants. And so they were open to doing something creative. I think, I should have prepared. I didn't know you were going to ask me that. I was trying to remember. I want to say it was like 90K. I can't even remember the amount it was. This was in 2018, so it was 4 years ago.
It's 4 times.
But I want to say it was 90K. And so the bottom line is there was not a lot. The property was not bad. It only needed like 10K worth of work. But the value of it was still close to the amount of what was left on the mortgage. So it still didn't have a lot of equity. So which made it perfect for subject to.
Okay. So for folks who so I'm so sorry, but folks who may not understand what subject to is, can you like a one-on-one, like if I've never heard of real estate, what would you explain subject to as we keep
so it so let me put it like this. When a lot of more people buy cars than they buy houses. So when you buy a car, right, you have to get the title to the car, and you have to get the insurance and everything, all that runs together. When you buy houses, those things are not one and the same. You do not have to, the person's name who owns that title to the car, in this case would be a deed to a house, doesn't have to be the same person who owns the debt. So when you're buying a car, the debt, like, you're financing on that car and the title all has to be in the same person's name. You don't have to do that. And I misspoke earlier, I mentioned insurance, but it's debt. The debt on a property, as well as the ownership of that property, they don't have to be in the same person or entity's name. So those things can run separately. A lot of people don't realize that. So understanding that fundamental piece of information can help you understand subject to. So there are ways in which that you can actually own a property. You have ownership, you own the deed to the property, but you don't own the debt. Meaning that you can start paying on the debt or the mortgage of a person's property without transferring that debt into your name or to your business name. And that is subject to.
Sweet, right there. I'm just setting up the IG right here, and you were able to figure that out through. Two big men can move. Oh, sorry, you were able to. That weighs 200 pounds. Look at this, we're live right here, and you were able to get that, like, learn that from just from your own knowledge and from Charm City Buyers.
Yeah. So actually, at that time, they obviously, had a general awareness of different types of deals, but
Right.
they had not done one of that or taught one of their
So
students
you,
that before.
that's
So
what's
I
up.
just kind of ran with it and started, like I said, adding on that foundation and finding my own
Wow.
information and just becoming obsessed with learning about creative financing. So I found people like House Buying Brian Erekbu
Oh
on,
yeah.
like I just followed him and, his looking on his YouTube. And then when I was telling you about it, I think I like to take credit for like really like pushing you to learn more about
Man,
subjects.
it was like open up. Like I promise, after that deal, everywhere I turned, I saw subject to everywhere. So I appreciate
Right.
it.
Yeah. I
Thank you.
always tell
Yes.
people, I'm like, I
Yeah.
take credit for Courtney
Hey, there
going
it
hard in
is.
subject too, because, but the thing is, even though I like, just laugh and take credit for like putting you on to subject to,
Yeah.
I can't take credit for the fact that you were receptive just to hearing.
Mm.
Oh, hey, Tanika.
There it is.
One of my
People
other
coming
people.
in.
Yeah. But I cannot take credit for you being receptive to hearing about it. So I would pitch it to a lot of wholesalers after I did that first deal. And just to finish up talking about that first deal,
Yeah,
I stepped into that seller's role. I ended up starting to pay that mortgage at the closing table. You still have to close because the person who holds the deed is now changing, is now becoming into a new entity. So there is closing costs, there's transfer taxes. So you do have to close. But now that deed is in my entity's name. And to this day, that debt is still in that seller's name. Because whenever I make a subject to deal, I will promise to make monthly on time payments until that mortgage is paid off. I don't make any promises that I'm going to pay it off in a particular time period, unless we just really come to those terms. But I prefer just to put in the documentation, the agreement, that I will make monthly on time payments until that deal is paid off. I don't try to force myself into a set of terms because you don't know how the market may shift. A seller may not want to accept those terms, and that's okay, but that's usually the type of terms that I like to agree to. So to this day, all these years later, 4 years later, that debt is still in that person's name, but I make monthly on-time payments. And so I did not have to go to a bank. I didn't have to qualify for a loan. I didn't have to put a down payment down. I didn't have to run my credit. I literally stepped into that mortgage. I paid, I got a contractor to come in there, inspector to come in there. And then I had the contractor to do the work. And Charm City helped me with that, finding someone to help me do the work. And I put a tenant in there. I've had different tenants. I just put a new tenant in there. My realtor, shout out to Amanda Paris, just did tenant placement for me sometime last year. I can't remember, with my most recent tenant. So just been, and I manage my own properties too.
So let me, so for folks who may be watching this on YouTube later on and are super excited about subject to, it is a awesome thing that happens every day that a lot of folks may not know about, but it's something that when people do know about, it happens every day. But I'm gonna put myself in a seller position just to ask some questions that may help folks like, bite onto this and just dig deeper. So for a seller, what is your response when they say, hey, but what about my debt's income? I wanna go and buy another property. What are some of the responses you've come across?
So luckily I haven't had that response, but again, in my, or had that question, I don't know, people just seem to trust me.
Yeah, I can dig that.
Maybe I just seem very trustful, but I haven't necessarily had that direct question, but again, me is like always digging down deep and always trying to prepare myself for any potential possibility and prepare myself for that question. When I've heard other investors who've been doing this way longer than me, they always recommend just, literally be honest with them, say, hey, if need be, I can send you information. I can send you confirmation that you are actually not on the deed anymore, that monthly payments are coming out of that. I can get that information for you because you want to be helpful as much as possible with that seller. But if they do want to get another property, it's not impossible. But in the first few months, it may be a little bit tricky. Yeah.
Right. And then what we've come across too is it's similar to if they kept the property in their name and they're renting it out. You would show I think the term for it, standard generic term is income verification form.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
for the first 9 months, if they go, let's say within the first 9 months, and again, if everyone check with their states, check with the lawyers and all that stuff. For the first 9 months, they try to get a loan. You show the income verification form, so that just as Dr. Daa'iyah is saying, that this is what someone's paying this, they'll get 75% credit. So
Exactly.
25% will go to the deed. But then after 9 months, it's 100%. So it doesn't even,
Whole thing. Yeah.
it's just the whole thing. So it's not, and as long as they're not trying to buy 10, 12, properties in their name, they'll be able to, the debt income ratio is not an issue. What about, oh, sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I was agreeing with you. That's what I've learned in like my research, because I always try to educate myself on what are potential questions and issues that may come up in the future, because I continue to plan on buying even more subject to deals. So that's exactly what I've learned to share and be open. And I literally would be open to sending that information over.
I think that's the most important thing, because it is a trust issue and you want to know, like, because the loan does stay in their name. And even though you are alleviating quite often a pain point for them by taking over the property for them, because quite often, even though it's a seller's market, there's probably not enough equity for them to actually recoup what they need. So you even just taking over the payment. Like we just closed on one last week, and the ladies, thank you for like, we didn't have to pay a down payment or anything. Just thank you for taking over our payments. Like, okay,
that's what I was telling my Earn Your Leisure peeps when we had a rehab tour this past weekend.
Awesome.
They stopped by. my property was the first stop on the tour, but I was telling them the same thing, just giving them the story when I first met the seller of the most recent subject to deal that I purchased, which that one is a subject to a BRRRR. So I just started the refinance process on that one to cash out. So that one's not a long-term hold for subject to. That's a subject to a BRRRR. But I was just telling my earner crew about how like the lady was like literally so upset and in tears of like the thought of relieving the pressure of that mortgage.
Right. You're right. All right. So another one that comes in before we circle back to another question that comes up often. Well, actually, let me say this, because people might be questioning right now. Can you just give the acronym for BRRRR for some folks that maybe?
Oh yeah, BRRR, buy, rehab, refinance, or rent and refinance and repeat. And so you buy the property, you force appreciation by renovating it, which is what I'm doing with the ones. And you guys can see a little bit of footage on that on my IG page.
I've been following. It's so cool. I've been following your lives. It's like
at Capital Dynasty. And so I'm forcing appreciation with the rehab. So buy, rehab, and then rent. So make sure you find a tenant, whether it's a long-term tenant, mid-term tenant, or whatever, so you can have that actual lease in place to give to your lender when you do the refinance. So that's the next R. And then you repeat, because once you refinance, if you bought it right, you should be pulling cash out to go and do that process again.
They might be giving you money just to do all this. It's like the infinite return on rate of ROI, infinite ROI. But another question that comes up sometimes, that if the seller doesn't bring it up, I sometimes bring it up. I'm like, hey, here's some questions I would ask if can I say some questions that
Please.
I would ask. Yeah. Oh, no, I'm saying this is what I say to the seller. But the question I usually ask, or have them ask, or if they haven't asked, is the due on sales clause. Dun dun dun. What's your response?
Due on sale clause, or I guess it's also the alienation clause. I think that's what they also call it.
I never heard of that. Cool, alienation clause.
So, and I could have made that up. So, but sometimes I make things up. But the due on sale clause is a common clause in most modern mortgages. So anytime the property, the ownership of the property changes hands. And there are some exceptions, like if you're doing, that's why a lot of people do trust, because that's an exception. But just to get the definition of due on sale, if one entity owns the property, a person or entity owns the property, and that ownership changes hands to a new entity or person, most mortgage companies have in these promissory notes a clause in there that says at that time they have the option, not obligation, but option to call that loan due immediately and in full.
Right. And in your years, your time, your experience, how many times have you heard the due on sales clause actually?
I don't know. I don't know anybody personally. And like I said, I make it my point to put myself in so many circles and learn as much as possible. So I don't know. I have probably with your boy William Tingle, maybe like I might have heard one person on his podcast that might have said it. And I like to give Courtney credit for putting me onto that. So I always take credit for putting him onto subject too. One of the big people who teaches about it online, Courtney put me onto that. So I like to,
hey, if anything, William Tingle, I just love his voice. I'm not gonna do his voice now because I love his voice. But William Tingle and Pace Morby, these two folks are huge in the creative financing world. I've learned a lot, and even just
you didn't tell me about Pace Morby. I had to find him on my own.
Well, we probably found out at the same time though. But Pace and William.
Tell me?
Hey, I'm sorry. I apologize, but even from our experience, like I've never heard anyone have joint sale clause called, because really these banks, these lenders are not in the real estate game. They really just want to make sure that first of the month that payment is being made, and we actually are with our sellers. Hey, we need to connect with your lender, let them know that we're paying this, because you want to make sure. Unless you're using a third party, well, even if you're using a third party note servicer, you want to make sure that the money you're giving is actually going
to the company. Yeah. So the seller should be making sure of that.
Right. And so, so like I've heard it explained, like it's like going 41 in a 40 mile an hour, like, but so some people do put it in trust, because if you do transfer in trust, like you were saying,
there's an exception to that potential due on sale. For if you're just doing kind of like estate planning and you decide that you want to change your property from ownership in yourself in your own name to say your estate planning attorney or advisor advise you to put it in a trust just for protection, asset protection, you can do that. So a lot of times someone will buy a property subject to in a trust and hoping that the bank will make the assumption that this is the same person and they're just doing estate planning.
I dig it. Well, and if you actually do use like a note service,
I don't do that. I haven't
done it either. It's like
I just do LLC. I'm taking a chance because I'm like going for it. I ain't scared.
Exactly. And the note servicer, like if you're worried about not you, but people out there worried about the extra payment, when you do, like sometimes we like the strategy of, I really like, again, following the William Tingle's strategy of getting something subject to, and then wrapping that, seller financing it to someone who maybe couldn't couldn't afford or just needed seller finance. So now I'm technically the bank. They're responsible for the insurance, taxes, and all. I can charge a more premium rate because it is a premium service, but I'm also serving them
down payment.
Right, and you get a down payment. 3 cash centers: the down payment, the cash flow, and then at the end when you've because I do ask them to do a balloon, unless it's like advantageous for us to keep that interest rate in,
so you can get money for 30 years.
It's sweet, and not be the landlord. And you can have other rental properties if you want to offset tax. Some people say, well, what about I don't get the tax benefits, which is true, but if you're diversifying your portfolio with other rentals, you can offset that.
There's different ways to make money in real estate. Like you said, there's the tax benefits, there's cash flow, and there's appreciation. So like you said, that you may not be getting the tax benefits, but you're getting that cash flow, baby.
Hey. Heck yeah. So as a doctor and as a coach that's not a coach, but as a all that stuff, it sounds like you have plenty of time on your hands. How do you prioritize your, if everything's a priority, it's nothing to prioritize. How do you prioritize your activities? What is a day or a week look like
I don't know. I don't think I have a good, I'm going to be honest with y'all. I don't think I have a good strategy yet. If the person that's watching now, Tanika,
good question. Tanika, good question.
She was just reminding me of how I need assistance. So I will say though that one thing that makes it a little bit easier, especially when it comes from a property management standpoint, is to make sure you do as much as possible right the first time, like at the very beginning. Don't be slapping any like old thing onto the property. Don't do like, cut corners and stuff when you do your renovations and things like that. Because if you do everything as great as you can at the very beginning when it comes to the renovations and setting up everything, the lease and everything, clarity and things like that, once the tenant is in there, it's really only small little minute things. There's nothing major because you did everything right from the beginning. So I think that's helped me a lot.
So one way is like I'm just repeating what if I'm hearing you say, make sure that you're not slacking on any of the rehabs you're doing, so you're not having to go back in, and making sure that your lease is really tight. Are there any
Mhm.
things that you could share with us that
And
like
just vetting too, vetting your
okay,
tenants, you know,
okay.
because I do well, not short term, I do like midterm rentals, like travel nurse rentals, but I also have
Oh, nice.
long-term tenant. So with whether it's the midterm or long-term tenants, you still want to make sure you're vetting people. Don't let the emotions get you got. Make sure
That's
you're
what I
vetting
needed.
people. Um, I don't know if I should be saying this on
Now,
a recording, but I look at everything. I look at as much information as I can for possible. I don't treat anybody different though, so
right,
I'm not violating any fair housing rules. But
right.
I try to look at as much information as possible, even if I have to look at your social media.
Hey,
Um,
that's what the employees are doing, it, and they're your partner. They're your partner
right,
in this, right? So you need a right partner there for the
right.
value you're giving to like live in. They're giving you the value with their rent. So you got to make you're vetting them properly. Is there any like things you could tell us that you like I look for that's either a green flag or a red flag?
No, just the basic things, and it seems real simple, but people will deviate all the time from the basics, like your credit score, doing your background checks, your eviction checks, your eviction history,
Uh,
and confirming actual employment. Like, don't like just get the information, the pay stubs. Actually, call and make sure it's not their cousin who's answering the
uh,
phone.
okay,
You know
actually
what I'm
call. Oh
saying?
yeah, oh yeah, okay, yeah, yeah. Oh
But
man,
so like
oh man.
actually vet, actually do the work.
Oh
Actually
boy,
do the
yeah.
work.
Call and make sure. Oh man, because I know back in the day, I'm not gonna say I have done that when I was in my 20s. I'm not gonna say that. Like, I, but I'm not gonna. But yeah, you got to call and make sure that that person's
Yeah, so
actually
actually do the
employed.
work. People like
Uh,
say, that they will follow those like basic guidelines, and they were like, well, they said they were on hard times and
yeah.
the score is a little bit lower than like set your standard and just stay there. Like that's where people fall into trouble. And so that's the part with the vetting of the tenants, but then also just making sure like, if it needs a furnace, get the furnace. Don't say, okay, I'm gonna wait, 3 years
Right.
and just get it now. Just put the new furnace in there before
I
you get the
dig it.
tenant in there. you
I
know
dig it.
if
I
you're aware
got
that something needs to be done, just do it. Now obviously if you're not aware, then that's something different.
I got the deeds. Say more about that. That is a dope shirt.
Yeah, just some of my marketing materials. Capital Dynasty, we have a few items on the site. So I have my logo tee for Capital Dynasty if you want to rep. And then I have this, I got the D's. I just get in my mood of ownership. There's different ways to get money out here, and no hate or no slight to nobody else. There's like arbitrage, people are doing a lot of that. And I looked into it. I just have not gotten into it. I just like ownership. I like to own things. I don't really do a lot of flipping. No slight to anybody who is doing flipping, because it's a great way to make money. But I'm the type of person, I'm just a buy and hold investor. So I believe in ownership. I believe in getting those deeds, stack those
Mhm.
deeds.
I gotta get that shirt. We're gonna have to put in the show links how folks can get to it. And I really hear what you're saying because riches are in
Um,
the niches. I literally I literally have ADHD, like you're diagnosed, whatever. I'm on it's my superpower. But when I was first getting into real estate investing, like I would listen to Bigger Pockets and every episode, every other hour, because I was consuming it. I was, oh, I'm gonna
yeah.
be a note investor. Oh, I'm gonna be a
Yeah,
probate.
yeah,
Oh, I'm
so
gonna be
much
this outside,
information.
so
There's a lot
much.
of information. Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's another thing for me, I think is helpful, because I used to do that as well. I think we all do that, but once I decided what my lane was going to be, I do singles, I do small multis, I do buy and hold, I do midterm. I don't do maybe a little bit of Airbnb. I have an account, but I stay in my lane. I don't really try to compare myself to nobody or try to do what other people are doing.
well, we
I
may
do
sound a
big
little
financial.
contradicting here because if you're out the listening, what I'm hearing is that you are in your lane, but you are also, it sounds like you're like nailing it, and then you're still opening up other multiple sources of income that's like that feed each other, like
Yeah.
the products, your shirt, that's part of your branding, part of you, but it's not
Yeah.
taken away from this is what I'm really focused
Absolutely.
on good at. Can
And
you say
don't get
more?
me wrong either, too. Although I stay in my lane, I don't do flipping, I don't do arbitrage. And maybe I'll do that in the future. But although I'm just focusing on buy and hold, singles, small multis, midterm rentals, and educating people on how to do that. I will say, and I stick in my creative financing lane as well, but I will say, although I don't do those other things that I mentioned and so many other things, I educate myself. I'm a beast when it comes to educating myself on the different exit strategies, different types of investing, because I want to be able to, if I'm consulting with people or people are consulting with me and they're paid me by the hour, like people are giving me money, right? I want to be able to say, okay, this is not something I do, but these are your options, and this is probably a good person for you to go to follow through with that.
And that's so awesome. I'm literally, again, I love Bob Proctor and Jim Rohn and all that personal development work, and like the cure for ignorance or fear sometimes is just knowledge. It's not that somebody out there is better than you out there. They just have applied more information. I mean, imagine, and it's through repetition. It's not reading one book and then putting it away. Like, read that same book over and over, or study these different areas, because repetition breeds awareness. And when you're aware, that's when you can apply this knowledge, right? Like, you didn't know your own name until your folks repeated it over and over. You didn't know how to drive a car until you worked on it. You didn't know creative finance until you went down the route. So I applaud you
and
being a model
hard
for
in
that.
it. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, anybody who knows me knows that I love learning and I'm always educating myself. Anybody who knows me knows I like to do my 2 books per month. I read at least 2 books per month, and by reading I mean listening to, because I do Audible. I used to have a book club called Wealth and Wine Wednesdays, but that kind of fizzled during the pandemic. But I still do my 2 books per month. I haven't listened to the radio in so long. I don't even know. Like, I literally listen to music. I listen to podcasts, audiobooks, webinars. I'll listen to replays of things like this. And that is what I listen to about 85% of the time. And then I may listen to, some affirmations or some music, the other 15% of the time. But if I'm getting dressed, if I'm driving, whatever,
University,
all that downtime, YouTube, Audible, webinars, that's what I do. And that's why I know that's why I know about so many different options and means of investing and helping others as well in that aspect.
Well, before I ask this other question, one thing I've noticed, because I'm similar, like in the last 2 or 3 years, I mean, that's the same thing. But when I am in a space with other people and there's music on, it actually makes it more, I'm like, oh, it makes it a little more enjoyable when I actually do taste
right, when you finally get to listen to it.
Yeah, like, I did. Damn, were you into that? Like, yeah, I am. This is beautiful.
Yeah. I have a vacation coming up, thank God. It's going to be like a music festival. And I'm like, I don't even know the songs.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to have to prepare for the festival.
Yo, you should start the book club back up again. I would love to see what you read, and I'll share with folks. And
I've shared some of my favorite books on my page.
Oh, your page? Okay.
On my Instagram, on my Capital Dynasty. And I have some content coming up where I want to share some of the other books, because I kind of mentioned a couple books on the CIAA stage, and so I do want to share kind of like the details of those books. Those are good books. Not in my neighborhood.
Not in my neighborhood.
The Black Butterfly. I've been meaning to make some content just to list that on my page for people who heard me bring that up at that panel event.
What are 1 or 2 books that you've either literally gifted or you've recommended to folks the most?
I recommend books to people all the time.
I hear you.
I recommend to people books all the time. It's crazy. They probably are annoyed with me. So, and speaking of Tanika, who's on here, one of the books that we talked about, and I don't know if she recommended me. I think I recommended her. I think we probably both heard it at the same time. But Rachel Rogers, We Should All Be Millionaires. Oh my God, that was so good. She's saying laugh out loud. Yes,
I love it. We should all be millionaires.
We should all be millionaires. It's it's written by a female attorney, and it's kind of geared towards women, but I feel like everybody can learn from it. But obviously she's speaking in the voice, speaking to her sisters, but you can learn so much from
we're getting some love over here on Instagram too. Learn with the wholesale queen. This is what I also love. I hope I didn't cut you off, because I just got excited.
No, go ahead.
But it's like you were mentioning House Buying Brian, Charm City Buyers out there. It's like the time that there's no excuse. If you have a phone, this is the information age, and there's so many of course there's unscrupulous characters out there, but they can't last long. That's universal law. There's some people there are so many people to learn from and to build with, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. It's just amazing. So I just get excited when
Yeah,
I
absolutely. And you can learn from
yeah.
you can learn from anybody. Don't underestimate anybody. You can learn from anybody. And I just love people who are open to receiving information. That's why I think I connected with you and Shanita, because one way I find deals is I have the audacity just to ask. Like people are like, how do you find all these seller financing deals and subject to? I don't find them all. Like sometimes I make them seller financing
So
deals or subject to deals,
is
right? That's how we like first really interacted, right?
right?
You
Yeah,
had a deal.
Lombard. Yeah.
It was not a subject to deal, but I came to
Yeah,
you
was it
like,
Franklin
hey,
County? Yeah.
yeah, it was on Lombard. It was
Lombard, the one,
yeah, that
yeah.
one. It took him a long time to sell that. I don't even know if he ever sold it.
Yeah, I need to go back to that because yeah. So audacity to ask, is that the name of your book that you're writing, or
Yeah, maybe let me write that down. Let me get that.
audacity? Hey, yep, she right. Yeah, you're getting some love over here on IG.
Oh,
So
no, thank you.
is there anybody yet learn with Wholesale Queen? That's another person out here who's just showing people the way.
Oh, I don't know her. Oh man, I feel like I'm
Yeah,
missing
y'all
out.
have to connect. I'll
Okay.
that's why let me make a note and like connect you all's profile thing.
Yeah. So
Profile
yeah, I have
Capital
the
Dynasty.
audacity to ask. Like people have
Audacity to
regular
ask.
deals on market
Copyrights,
now.
Daa'iyah Cooper.
Yes, give me. Hey, don't mess with my intellectual property. But yeah, I just say, hey, can you ask the seller? Would they consider me, maybe giving you a little extra higher than asking in exchange for seller financing? Or can you ask the seller? It seems like it doesn't have there's not a lot of equity in that deal. Would they consider just, me stepping into their role and taking it over subject to? And I really appreciated that you and Shanita like were really open to saying a lot of wholesalers will be like, girl, what are you talking about? Why are you trying to scam me? I really don't want to talk to you anymore. I'm like, no, it's real. You can make money. I will pay you an assignment fee. But you guys were open to saying, okay, tell me more.
Right.
Tell me more.
Exactly. That's what we're trying to learn. I appreciate that. Any wholesalers out there, in most states, you have to find the right title company, but you can assign subject to, but you got to make sure you're taking care of the seller and you have somebody with good character. And obviously, Dr. Cooper was, I mean, just you can tell she's a go-giver and she's going to person of her word. She was like, she knows what she's talking about. I was like, oh, I can learn from this person right here. But let me get, what's your Instagram title? Because
my Instagram is at Capital Dynasty, CAPITALDYNASTY.
I thought there was an X in there somewhere. So I got it right. Okay. So I don't know why I put an X in there.
Yeah, it's black and bright pink is my branding colors.
Oh, okay. All right.
So if you see, because there may be other similar names, but if it's not those colors, then it's not me.
Yep. All right, there it is. Said it has to be done right, A to Z. Absolutely. Yeah, because you might burn some people once or twice, but it's not a good feeling. Two, you're not gonna last long, and three, it's just not,
and I don't know who said that, but they absolutely right. Not even absolutely done right, but the proper disclosures. Things have to be disclosed.
Right.
Not only just doing it right, but awareness and documenting that people are aware and these disclosures are clear, especially to the seller, and making sure that your buyer, like you said, is an ethical person.
Exactly. So that's where, like, especially if you're doing a wrap to someone else there, and it's a home.
Please do not get out of the middle of that deal.
Homestead buy or whatever. There's a Dodd-Frank law. And it's not to scare you. It's just find consultants, coaches that can help you make sure you have the right clauses to protect them, protect you, and protect everyone involved. I do want to open it up to folks. Does anybody? She just followed you. Heck yeah. Does anyone?
Thank you.
Does anyone have any thoughts or questions out there, or want to jump in? Like, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, please ask questions
or share comments, anything like that. I want to open up folks over in IG and all that good stuff too. Heck yeah. And I'm about to make sure that was that something else?
And while I guess you're waiting on people to ask questions, I just want to add the reason why sellers, like, or some people who are not as familiar, why would sellers even want to do these types of things? Like, why would a seller want to do subject to? Why would a seller want to do seller financing? A seller would probably want to do subject to if their property has no equity, or if their property is underwater. Like, if not only do they not have equity, they actually owe money. And why would a buyer want to buy a property that has no equity? Because it cash flows. On my website, you'll see my other mantra, other than
because it cash flows, right?
Yeah, my other mantra is cash flow, not feeling. So forget all the motions. If it cash flows, that's it. So cash flows, not feelings. I got the D's. Those are my mantras.
Right.
But yeah, if it cash flows, that's why a buyer would want to buy it and the seller would want to sell, because they can't make any money on market if they have to pay their realtor. Bye, Tanika. If they have to
If you
pay
put the
their
money size up.
yeah, if they have to pay their realtor, they have to pay, the closing costs and things like that. They don't have they would have to literally bring money to the closing table to sell it traditionally on market. But with subject to, they can have somebody just to step into their role and paying that mortgage, and then they don't have to worry about those costs. That's why a seller would want to sell their property that way. That's why they would want to take a risk that buyer would not make those monthly payments. So that's why they would do that. The reason why a seller would buy with seller financing is because, one, and maybe they don't know this, but I share this with potential sellers, that, hey, you have a big capital gains tax bill coming up if you sell this traditionally, but you can kind of get around that and have, smaller monthly bills if you take monthly payments. So if you don't need a big lump sum of money, if you're not in a tight and if you don't need a huge lump sum of money, then that may be an option for that seller. So it's a win-win situation for the buyer and seller. If a seller decides to seller financing, that's one huge benefit to
That's
them.
a great benefit, because Uncle Sam's gonna get his 30-40%, depending on your tax bracket, maybe more. And who doesn't want to make money every month without having to be the landlord in that situation? There's a couple of questions here on IG, but I just wanted to make sure that I'm thinking about people who this may be their first time ever even hearing about. They might have looked up, how do I make money on the side? You keep on saying cash flow. Like, let's break that down.
Sorry about that.
No,
You're not
really,
doing a great job being an educator.
No, I'm just you in it.
I'm an educator by training. I get paid to teach future doctors, so it's crazy. I usually am always in breaking it down education mode, so I apologize. But yeah, so cash flow is how much you have left after you paid your PITI and PITI. Breaking that down. So, your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So your mortgage equals your principal payment on the mortgage, your interest payment on the mortgage, your taxes, and your insurance. That's if all those things are held in escrow. But yeah, so all those things are included in a mortgage payment. And then on top of that, then you have expenses. You should be, taking 5-10% setting to the side for capital expenditures. You may have a security system, you may have lawn care, you may have snow removal. Don't forget about those expensive water bills. Because a lot of times when people are analyzing these deals and they're talking about the cash flow,
they get the shiny eyes.
They're only talking about PITI, but they're not talking about those expenses. So the expenses plus the PITI, now that subtracted from what you're actually getting in rent, that's your cash flow.
And that's beautiful, coming in every month. All right, let me get to these awesome questions over here. All right, Learn with the Wholesale Queen says, well, first question she asks is, what's the best part you like about the deals that you do? What's some of the best part?
In general, all of it. It's an addiction. I like meeting people. Meeting people is my favorite part. I love meeting the sellers and interacting with them. And I just love, I feel like I'm beating the game whenever I can buy something with equity, or I can save money in a deal. I feel like I've won, or I can save somebody else money if I'm like doing it from a consult standpoint. But yeah, I just love, like, oh man, I just bought that and I bought that with 40% equity. Boom. So that's like my favorite part. And I just love meeting people too.
Dope. And then Learning with Wholesale Queen says that, she's more referring to how sometimes sellers who are trying to take advantage of like the tax benefits or deferring taxes will do something called a 1031 exchange.
Yeah, absolutely.
So so like 1031 exchange, you like property, you can buy another property for same or greater value, and Uncle Sam will let you kick the taxes down the road. The idea is not because you're adding value by have houses, right? Giving houses to folks. So this isn't like tax evasion or anything like that. You're literally following the tax code and doing the behavior that the government wants you to do to provide value to the citizens. Right. And if I can defer that taxes until I pass on.
Right. That's a great strategy. And that's a great strategy that she brought up. Sellers literally can kind of not have to worry about a very huge tax bill by doing a 1031 exchange, but people should make sure they're using a qualified intermediary when they're doing that, because the money can't go into your account. So don't fall into that trap. You can buy a property of equal or higher value, and then your attorney or your attorney, excuse me, your tax accountant is going to be like, oh, sure, now you don't have to pay taxes. No, you need to have a qualified intermediary to take that money.
Is it
But the
intermediary?
only yeah, they call it a qualified intermediary.
Oh, okay.
But the only not con, I would say, but maybe for lack of a better term, con with that is that again, you don't keep that money. That money goes to that next property. So you're not seeing any money go
Right.
into your account.
Yeah. So it's folks thinking about years and down the road, which is a helpful strategy. 'Cause that's what, you know, millionaires are thinking in years and decades and stuff. Oh, another good question from Mimi Snipe. Are you drawing up the substitute contract before visiting a lawyer, or is the contract drawn up at the attorney's office? Good question.
So yeah, so I have templates. Like I said, I've paid for education and stuff over the years, so I have like templates that I have. So yeah, no, I already have a contract.
I already have a standard. Okay, are people able to, like, I mean, I know you're not an attorney, but like folks who connect with you, are they able to get their hands on what that looks like sometimes if they're
Yeah, so and I'm not an attorney, so I like to stay in my lane. So I would say you know, I can look at it, but I would recommend you like have a true real estate or title attorney who has experience doing subject twos. But that's another problem. It's so hard to find title companies to close subject twos.
Who understand? Yeah,
It's
Master
exhausting.
Titles over at Towson does it. Shout out to Jeff Charlo.
Who did you use? Who?
Jeff Charlo of Masters. Actually, we're about to close one Monday. That thank goodness he was able to walk me through, because I was.
So reach out to a person like him and have him to look at it.
Oh man, I need to get you and Learning with Wholesale Queen in the same room and just close my mouth and listen, because it's like she had more of the APT. I don't even know what APT stands for. Building. It also has to sit, can't sell for a while afterwards.
Oh yeah, she's talking about the I think 1031 exchange.
Yes, okay, the APT. I don't know what that.
Yeah, I don't know that terminology. She has to put me on. Put me on game, wholesale queen.
Yeah. This has to sit for a while. Yeah, afterwards. Yeah. Was talking about Oh, I saw on the page was talking about like quality over quantity, and I think she has some pretty big buyers, which is awesome, because you know some people go for squirrels. In Baltimore, a lot of squirrel hunters, and I sometimes hunt for squirrels. I've been subject to that, but sometimes going after elephant, you spend some different time. You can get more bang for your buck. But something you said, Dr. Cooper, that I got convicted when you said one of your.
You know you're supposed to just be calling me Daa'iyah.
I did. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I like Dr. Cooper. I like
don't know why you calling me Dr. Cooper. It's so weird. People do not think I go around having people just in the street calling me Dr.
It's doctor to you, Courtney. I'm like,
I do not do that. That's so weird to me.
No, okay. The real Daa'iyah.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say that, like, it's just as how busy you are. You kept saying you need an assistant, and literally one of my acquisition managers was like, I was showing him, like, I got laid out I think we have 92 tasks that make Aqua Team run. And I have like, okay, here's the title of the people who's going to do it. Here's the people they report to. And then I have in reality who's actually doing it. And my name is up there quite often. It's just what it is. And he was like, yeah, Courtney, we're hiring an operations assistant April 15th or April 15th. Got to do it. Just going to do it.
Yeah.
He was like, yeah, Courtney, because I hear if you don't have an assistant, then you're the assistant.
Absolutely. Yeah. This year I have, I don't want to speak too much on the plans that I have and things that I'm going to like expand, but yeah, I know it's going to be, getting, SOPs and all these things like standard and help. I need help.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Document what you're doing, do videos, even if you're doing it by yourself and you don't see yourself hiring for a while, document your processes. It's painstaking. That little bit of time that you're taking 2, 3, 4 hours on the weekend to do that is going to come in folds when you actually hire somebody, and think about how you're going to onboard them and continue to support them. Because I can't wait to get my time back, because those tasks are super, super important, but they're not something that Dr. Cooper, Daa'iyah, should be doing when she needs to be leading the vision and out there pumping and making it happen and all. Heck yeah. So I can't wait. Yeah, I can't wait for y'all to connect too. Learning with Wholesale Queen said, like, their first, sees people talking about, doing 15 deals, but they made 20K off those deals. No, knocking folks making money. You making money, you're making money. Yeah. But like, if you're doing, like, she's doing 2 deals and about to get 50, 40, 60K, that's like, learn how to be efficient with your time.
Why she called the Wholesale Queen, sis?
Yeah, the Wholesale. All right, that closing attorney is Jeff Charlo, Charlo. Yep. I taught 2nd grade, so my spelling may be off.
Yeah, but I feel like even though I've had, of course, I don't even know that person, that closing attorney. So of course I've closed subject to deals because sitting here talking about it. But and not to be disrespectful, but even if somebody says they know how to close subject to, please educate yourself.
Right,
Please educate
right,
yourself on the proper disclosures and limited power of attorney and all these documents and
right.
everything that should be there because some people say they know how to close it,
Thank you,
but
thank you.
sometimes people will be saying things.
So what I like about you, Daa'iyah, it seems like you try to create fun problems for yourself to learn. Like being a life learner is like, okay,
I'm always learning.
instead of being like, oh, that's too much. I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna give myself more money, more
Yeah.
problems is great because you're getting
Yeah.
more
I think that's just
good
me
problems
and just
solved.
like my life, how I came into this world. I came into this world, not in the easy life. I had a lot of support, but anybody who knows my backstory knows I didn't have it easy from the beginning. So I'm just used to just tackling issues.
Oh, damn, I'm gonna have to have you back. Oh, yeah, because I want to hear more about that, oh man. So yeah, I would love to know more about the background and where you came from. I do also want to be respectful of we're talking about your time. And we done came up on an hour right here. This has been so fun. I know it's gonna be so awesome. I'm gonna have to go get my shirt. I'm about to, as soon as I get off, get my shirt. I'm glad
Yeah, cop that.
I'm about to get that. Any tags you want to drop again, just in case somebody may have dropped in at
Yeah,
the end?
yeah.
Or
Just my real estate page, I'm trying to do better about posting and sharing content because that's the thing now, even though I'm a little old. Um, I'm trying to get with the young folks and share content.
hey, you
But
do TikTok and all that stuff. You do the reels, IG reels.
yeah,
Yeah.
ooh, it's exhausting. But yeah, I am on Instagram at Capital Dynasty, CAPITALDYNASTY. And I don't have a Facebook page, and my website is thecapitaldynasty.com, and you can reach out to me at dcooper at thecapitaldynasty.com as well if you just want to send me an email. And then if you're interested in consulting, there's a booking link there on my website.
What about the now you said sisters? I'm using your
Oh
terms.
yeah, so that's a private Facebook community
Um,
because again, it's intimate. Some people, some of the sister docs, they have their own like big platforms, social media platforms, and some of them are like, hey, I'm using my employer as my biggest investor. I don't necessarily want them to know exactly everything I'm doing yet until I'm ready to break free. Or
right.
some people are just like, I want to keep it very low key. So that's why it's a private community because I actually have a show in the community called REI Rounds where I interview other sister docs and hear about their story. But some people are open to sharing that and some people are not. So that's why I keep that community
Respect to that.
private.
Respect.
Yeah.
Well, everybody who came out here, thank you all for listening. If you are on YouTube and you're checking us out again, please share, like, subscribe, all that good stuff that tells the algorithm that this is possibly quality. If you have any feedback or comments or questions, I love learning. Please share with us and
Share.
connect with Dr. Cooper, Daa'iyah Cooper. Y'all check out the folks over. Check us out on Instagram. I'm glad the folks came up here. Yeah, learn with the wholesale queen and all the folks that joined us, Jason. And I ain't gonna go through all the list and all that stuff, but I appreciate you all joining. Hey, I always end with rising tides lifts all sails, but I think any last thing you want to leave us with?
Yeah. I always like to tell people get educated and get started.
Get educated, get started. There it is. The second book. That's the second book. So title of it. There it is. All right. Peace to everyone. All right. Take care. This was awesome.